Sometimes we all like to overcomplicate productivity, but it's actually pretty straightforward. You don't need any complicated systems or expensive apps, you just need to cover the basics. In this video, we'll look at 5 simple and effective techniques for getting more done. All of these hacks you can implement right away too. So let's jump in. Tip number 1, chunking. Our first tip is all about making overwhelming tasks more manageable. It's called chunking. Chunking information is a cognitive strategy that involves breaking down large amounts of information into smaller, manageable parts, or chunks. This technique is widely used in various contexts, including learning, memory, and, importantly, productivity. Instead of trying to tackle a massive project all at once, which can feel completely overwhelming, you break it down into tiny, tiny pieces. The reason this works is because our brain is designed to be as efficient with our willpower as possible. We all have a point in time when our brain says, "Nope, this is too much," and shuts down. Chunking can elevate this because it almost tricks your brain into thinking the project is much smaller and more manageable. Instead of telling yourself you have a 40-hour project, you say 1 hour, and then that gradually increases. Try this method. You'll find you'll have more energy to power through all your projects. Tip 2, tackling the whale. In his book, Daily Rituals, Mason Curry studies 100 of history's greatest artists, scientists, painters, and poets, searching for the secrets to their success. And in doing that, he noticed that one habit appeared again and again in the daily routines of the people he studied. So what was the habit? He found that each of them worked out which task was most important each day, and then they prioritized that task first. That was it. You'd be surprised how productive you can be just by doing a little of what matters most each day. You see, we humans are good at tricking ourselves. We think that being productive means fitting as much as possible into each day and making sure we're always busy. It's easy to convince ourselves that we're being productive, when really we're just putting off what needs to be done. We spend our days taking on the 4th, 5th, and 6th items on our to-do lists, telling ourselves that we'll eventually get around to doing the most important stuff as soon as we've replied to our emails, tidied our desks, and have taken out the trash. But we often end up spending all our time on busy work and never quite get around to making progress towards the goals we actually care about. I call this method tackling the whale because you do the biggest, scariest, and most crucial task right away without thinking about it and without allowing procrastination to set in. Once you've done the day's most important task, you'll also find that the rest of the day is much less stressful. And that work comes easier. Everything you do is a bonus. Tip number 3 is to focus on one thing at a time. In a world of seemingly endless multitasking, it can be hard to focus entirely on one thing. We don't like picking something because it closes the door to everything else, and most ambitious people get stuck not knowing which option to pursue. But the truth is that people who try to do everything often end up doing nothing. As Confucius said, "He who chases 2 rabbits catches neither." It's better to work towards one goal at a time. There's a story that entrepreneur Derek Sivers tells about a donkey standing in front of a bale of hay and a bucket of water. Both options are equally good for the donkey, so it can't decide which to choose. And eventually, he dies of hunger and thirst. Derek teaches that the best way to avoid being a donkey is to do something donkeys can't. Plan for the future. Most of us probably have decades left on planet Earth. We can do most of what we want, but not at the same time. We can do a lot. We just need to plan ahead. Tip number 4, use the Pomodoro technique. This technique is a surprisingly effective productivity method used by creatives, CEOs, and entrepreneurs. It's a powerful technique for helping you focus better, remove distractions, and break up your work into more manageable sections. To try it, decide what you need to do: a work task, a college assignment, Or anything that requires focus, set a timer for 25 minutes and work intensely on the task for the whole 25 minutes. Don't look at your phone or check the news or do anything unrelated to the task. When time's up, set the timer again for around 5 minutes and take a break. Stretch your legs, daydream, or prepare for the next stint of work. Try to give your brain a rest too, and don't check emails or mindlessly surf the internet. After 4 rounds, give yourself a slightly longer break to rest and recharge as a reward for your hard work. Tip number 5 is to batch or combine tasks. Do you do your laundry every time you have some new dirty socks or run to the grocery store each time you need to replace something you've just eaten? The answer is probably no. We know that we use the same amount of water washing clothes, regardless of how much we wash, and the same amount of gas driving to the store, no matter how much we buy. So we do our laundry and shopping in batches. And we should do the same with our work tasks. For example, instead of answering emails when you feel like it or whenever they come in, reply to them in batches all at once and dedicate a specific part of your day or week to it. Or instead of picking it up and dropping it throughout the day, you could decide to do all your creative work that requires brain power like writing or video editing in the morning. You can also batch on a weekly basis. For instance, if you're a student preparing for exams, you could dedicate all of Monday to one class, Tuesday to another, and so on. Batching is so powerful because it reduces the energy you waste whenever you switch between types of work. If you're moving all day between different types of tasks, you're probably not spending much time in a productive state and could benefit from trying to batch. And that's it. I hope you find these techniques a useful addition to the other methods, and I'll see you in the next video.